everyone. So welcome to your first life sciences lesson. Today we're going to be dealing with genetics and inheritance. And one thing I need you guys to keep note of is, one, please understand the topic, don't cram, because a lot of contextual questions are going to come. Like a situation where a child has blue eyes and both their parents have green eyes. You're like, okay, where's the blue coming from? You understand? So that is very possible. You need to be able to explain that scientifically, so using life science terminology. So please understand the topic. And another thing, mind your spelling, please, because Gregor Mendel and Gregor Mendel is not the same thing, and they're gonna penalize you for that A, right? So you're gonna lose 1 mark for no reason. Another thing, be specific with your definitions, because if, say for example, heredity is how genetic characteristics are passed on from parents to child, and when because I don't know, you were feeling like it, you decided to leave out this word genetic, and on the memo they come and mark genetic and parents to child, you are going to lose this mark for genetic, which is very unnecessary, trust me. Right? So please mind your definitions as well. So genetics is the study of heredity. You need to know and understand that. And heredity is just how genetic characteristics are passed on from parents to child. And you need to understand the process of heredity very well, right? So another thing about heredity is that you as a person have an individual set of gene combination that you inherit from your parents. Like, it's unique to you, there's no other person with it, but it's similar enough to your parents that so that you can identify with, oh, I am my parents' child, right? So I'm just going to explain that concept, how it's similar but still unique at the same time. So say for example, you're going to have to get used to this. In another diagram you're going to be dealing with later, a square represents a male and a circle represents a female. So please keep that in mind, something you need to get used to. So let's just say this is your father and this is your mother. Right now, let's talk about the trait eye color. Okay, so we're talking about eye color now. And okay, say for example, your father, remember this is a square, so it's a male. Your father had orange eyes and your mother has green eyes. Not had, we're talking about the scenario we're making here. So just to make it easier, this is your father and this is your mom. And then this one who happened to be a boy. So now when you are represented in a square. Oh my days. Okay, please do not mind that square. So you are a square basically, because you are male, right? And you are daddy's boy, so you took his eyes. I'm gonna understand how you took his eyes, right? Okay, let's do this. Okay, so one thing you need to understand is, since you took a trait or a code from your dad for eye color and a code from your mom for eye color, it means that your dad also took a code from his mom and his dad, and your mom also took a code from her mom and her dad, right? So I'm gonna explain what exactly happened there, right? So let me just quickly erase here. So that's a general. So what just happened now is what you call the phenotype, what you see outside. You see the orange eyes here on your father, you see your green eyes on your mother, and then you see your orange eyes, right? That's what you see on the outside. And that concept there is what we call the phenotype. This is the outwards physical appearance of an organism. And there's something that controls this concept here that we call the phenotype, right? So that thing that controls that phenotype or results in the phenotype is what we call the genotype. And this is the genetic composition of an organism, right? So you need to understand what a genotype is. It's very important that you understand that a phenotype is what you see on the outside, and then the genotype is what causes you to see that phenotype. So that has more to do with the genes inside that you don't see with the naked eye. Alright, so you do not see the genotype. What you see is indeed the phenotype. And you can remember this by saying pheno kind of sounds like physical. So that's what you see on the physical outward appearance, right? So this is the genetic composition of an organism, and this determines that. Okay? So you can't have the phenotype without the genotype. So just keep that in mind. Phenotype and genotype, phenotype and genotype. I said that the eye color that you see here is the phenotype of your mom, of you, and your dad. Because you see the orange eyes, you see the green eyes, you see the orange eyes. You don't see the code that's happening behind the scenes that results in your mom having orange eyes, your dad having green, and then you having orange and not a mixture of orange and green. Right? Which means you'd have brown eyes. That's not how it works. So I'm going to explain how it works. So we're going to erase the phenotype and go deeper into the genotype. Alright? So I'm still going to represent the genotype in colors, in dots, but ideally they are represented in letters. And I just want you to get the concept before we move on to that. Right, let's zoom into your father. You see your pops, ne? So your pops here has a humongous dot. Remember, your pops has orange eyes. Has a humongous dot for orange. And then has a tiny dot for blue. You'll understand what that means as we move forward. Your mom has a humongous dot for green and another humongous dot for green. Stay with me. Then when, because remember your phenotype was you had orange eyes. So your dot is also humongous for orange. And then you have a humongously orange green dot. Stay with me now. I'm sure you're kind of getting the way this is going now, right? So I'm just going to change the thickness of my pencil. Right. Let's analyze that thing. Right? This here is your father. He has a dominant orange, and then he has a small blue. Over here we have a dominant green and then we have a small green. Where here you have a dominant orange and you have a small green. I think I should also write this in that kind of code. So this is the dominant orange and this is the small blue. Let's understand what happened for you to get this. This is your code, right? So let me represent that code on a chromosome. Remember, your genes are coming from your parents, right? And your parents carry genes in their chromosome. So this is that certain chromosome where that gene came from your mom. And this is your dad's chromosome, where the same, actually, just to make sure that you understand the concept, I have to copy the exact same chromosome. I'll explain to you why. So remember when we talked about these things called homologous chromosomes? Yes, so this is where they come in again. So first off, let me just quickly change my palette there. This is dad's chromosome, right? And say the gene, remember gene is a section of DNA and chromosomes are just shaped forms of DNA. So this is a section of your mom's DNA where you find the trait for eye color. And your mom's trait for eye color is made of 2 green big dots, right? So that's where you found this code, 2 big green dots from your mom. And from your dad, it has to be on the same location because it's the exact same chromosome. Remember, homologous chromosomes share the watts, the same watts. I'm sure you should know still. Same spelling, same shape, same size, and the last characteristics, same genetic composition. So that is what homologous chromosomes share. Same shape, that's why I copied and pasted. Same size, again why I copied and pasted, because they have to be identical. And same genetic composition, meaning that they have the same genes in the same location, right? So they have same genes in the same locus. You know what a locus is? I'm sure you do. You should be knowing that a locus is, I'm just going to change colors again, is the position on a chromosome, right? So that's what a locus is. So homologous chromosomes have the same size, shape, and genetic composition, and them having the same genetic composition means they have the same genes and on the same locus, meaning that on the same location. And that's why you're seeing what is happening here, right? So that's both for your mom and dad. Okay, so we're quickly just gonna erase that to make space. So over here on your dad's locus, this side over here, your dad for eye color, remember this gene, this whole thing is for eye color, right? So the code your dad has there is here, which is a big orange dot and a small blue dot. So there's the small blue dot. Wait, we have to write it second because it's the smaller one, so it's less important. I'll explain in scientific terms later on. And then the big dominant, more important one. Okay, so that's what your mom and dad's chromosome thing look like, right? So that's how you represent it on your chromosome. So that's the code there, right? So that means now we can move on to understanding how you got your code. So how you got your code, you took code from both moms and pops. Now you're gonna ask me how, and I'm gonna tell you exactly how. So since we can see that you have a humongous orange dot here and a humongous green dot here, and you took one from each, that means we can conclude that you took this from mom over here, and you took this from dad over there. Alright? So now we're gonna name what these things or big dots or circles are. So these things over here, even the small one and the humongous green one and whatever, these are what you call alleles. So they are basically varying alternative forms of a gene. Right? So basically it's all the possible. This is not a definition you should write. The one you should write is this one. But I'm saying it's all the possible results or phenotypes for a certain trait or characteristic. Right? So we have different alleles. We have the allele for blue, we have the allele for yellow eyes, we have the allele for purple eyes, blah 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 blah. So that's what alleles basically are. Right? So that's something you need to understand. It's just varying forms of a gene. And then now that you know what these dots are called, why are some of them big and why are some of them small? So the reason why some of them are big is because the big ones are what we call dominant alleles. Maybe I should write that in a different color just for you to understand or for it to stand out. So the humongous ones here are called dominant alleles, and the smaller ones are called recessive alleles. And from the words themselves, recessive means less dominant, meaning it has less power, or it shows up less. Right? This one, it will show up. It shows up the most. But in life sciences, dominant and recessive simply means that this will be displayed, this will be masked, meaning you won't see it. Meaning it is there, but it won't be displayed because it doesn't have that power. You know, it's not that important. It's high, it's hidden somewhere, but it's still there, right? So now that you know that some of them are called recessive and some of them are called dominant, now I think you're starting to get an idea as to what happened for you to get your eye color. Let's go back there. So you took, let's just erase this because now you understand. So you took a dominant orange and a dominant green. right? Oh, no. Wait a minute. I think I'm going to confuse you guys. Let's make this a small one. Because if I make it big, we're starting to talk about some other deep concept that we haven't gotten to. So, you got a green. That's why. Okay, yeah, you got a green small one. Right? Okay. Then, so you got the dominant for orange and you got the recessive for green. Let's make it easier for an introductory video. Spelling there. Recessive green. Alright? Alright. That's what you got. That means this orange here was displayed. And this green was masked. Meaning you still have the gene for green. But we don't see it on your phenotype. What we see is this one, which was displayed. And that's why we see you as someone having orange eyes. Because you have the dominant orange that masked the recessive green. As you can see, if you were to put green, a small green dot, and then come with a humongous orange dot, it's going to mask the green dot. And all you see now is orange. See? So that's basically what it means. As I'm saying, you need to understand. So you have orange eyes. That green dot has been masked behind the orange. Let's understand why we said that your dad had orange eyes. As you can see, he has the dominant orange and the recessive blue, meaning that one of his parents gave him a small blue trait, right? So let's trace back to his parents. So his parents also have alleles from both parents. So from his mom, so this is from his mom and this is from his father. So this is dad's mom and this is dad's father. So dad's mom had a humongous orange dot, meaning that she was dominant for orange eyes, right? And then she was also recessive for gray eyes, right? And then the father, remember, we forgot, ukuthi umama is a circle. She's female, right? And then utata is a square, rectangle, whatever. It's supposed to be a square, but please do not mind. And then utata nje has two small dots. Alright, so I'm gonna let you take a guess. What do you think is his father's eye color? They have two small recessive traits, meaning that if you were to take your dad's father's traits, you have a small blue and you put another small blue on top, it's just simply a small blue, meaning that your dad's father simply had blue eyes. Because nothing masked anything, they just cooperated to form the same image, right? And then your grandmother from your dad's side, meaning your dad's mom over here, she has this tiny gray dot that is together with this humongous orange dot. I'm going to stop saying dots and start using dominant and recessive so you can understand. Meaning that all we see is orange, and therefore the phenotype we see is that she has orange eyes. And then your dad, that means he took this blue from his dad and the big orange from his mom, and therefore he looks like his mom with eye color because he took the dominant from his mom. Same thing might have happened this side, right? With your mother. So your mother, this is your mother's mother and your mother's dad. So your mother's mother is a circle, your dad is the square. Okay, so say your mother's mother had one large green dot and a small white dot. And then your dad had a big white dot and a small green dot. So remember, the order in which you take genes is very random. It's either somebody takes this from their mother or that, or they take this from their father or that. So it's very random. That's why your gene composition is very unique to you. It's different from the ones your sisters have. And if you look so alike, it means that your combination will almost the same. They will never be the same. That is just impossible, because you'll understand during when we talk about how your gender is determined as well. You'll understand better as we go forward, but your combinations can never be the same, right? It's just impossible, except with twins, because twins are twins. Yeah, we'll explain more about that later. So this is your grandmother from your mom's side and your grandfather from your dad's side. That means your mom took the dominant from her mom and the recessive from the dad, right? And that means she got a green dot, small green dot from the dad, a recessive allele from the dad, and a dominant allele from the mom. And what we see now is just green. And that's why we see her as having green eyes. So that is basically how you inherit traits. Eye color, skin color. Okay, skin color is a different thing, but it's not different, but it's more complicated. Skin, eye color, hair type, your height and whatever. Yeah, all those different traits. So that's how you get those traits. That's what we're saying. It's very unique to you. As you can see, this combination is nothing the same as that. It's not the same as that, and neither is it the same as that, because you're going to have to mix from two sides, which are also different, right? But it's similar enough for us to link, or oh, you took this over here from your mom and you took this from your dad, meaning that you are your parents' child. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. If it was, please do let me know in the announcements or chat log, so that I just wanted you to understand what exactly happens when you inherit stuff. Now that you know, we can move on, and now you'll understand the concepts better. Right. Okay. So, as we were saying, it's the passing of hereditary characteristics from parent to offspring, just like what was happening over here, right? And then a filial generation is an offspring of parent organisms. So we are going to get rid of this now, since you understand, hopefully. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the announcement section. But yeah, I hope I made it clear enough. Okay, so F1 is what we call the first filial generation. Right? So just remember that filial here just represents offspring. Right? So when I talk about, why did I erase everything? when I talk about filial, I'm just saying it's the first offspring generation that has been produced from those people, right? From that family, right? So when your mother here, for example, your mom, your dad met to produce you, and you're the only child, you are the first offspring generation. Then when you meet with someone else's child here, your partner, then you produce another child, then this is the second offspring generation from your parents. So from you, your child is your first offspring generation. So it depends on where you are referring from, right? So that is what the first filial generation is. Before we move on, actually, since we have already talked about the locus, which is the exact position of a gene on a chromosome, as I showed you, genetic engineering is a topic for another day. We'll come back to that. I just want to go back to that messed up diagram of ours, because it's very necessary for us to understand something else there, right? Okay, so let's erase that. Now we're gonna change the system of naming this. We're not gonna use dots because
I don't understand.
Sorry for that. You are not going to be using dots in your exam. You're gonna be using alphabets, letters, right? In your examination. So let's just check out how that comes into play. So as I said, you're not going to be using dots. And one thing you need to know, let's just bring that back quickly. One thing you do need to know is that dominant alleles are capitalized and recessive alleles are in lowercase, which are just small letters, and these are your capital letters, right? So just know that everything is related here. Dominant means big, important, so it has to stand out, and that's why you write in capital letters. Recessive means we don't really care if you're there, but we do care when we want to determine where eye color came from. So we're just going to put you in small letters to show that you're there, but then we don't really see you a lot because you're too small, alright? That's why you don't see recessive alleles when they are masked by a dominant. And you do not see recessive alleles only if they are masked by a dominant. So you can't see recessive alleles only if they are masked. Oh my, don't mind my spelling, please. By a what? A dominant allele. So we're just gonna squish the page a bit. Okay, so you don't see them only and only if they are masked. But if we go back to our example here, you remember that your grandfather from your dad's side, which is Umkulu this side, had 2 recessive alleles for eye color, which were both blue, and that's why we said he has blue eyes, because nothing is masking anything. Because if you put this small dot here, from the mother and you put a small dot again from the father, it's just simply a small dot that you see, which is blue, meaning that he has blue eyes. But if you check, there's no dominant thing being expressed, but a recessive trait is being expressed. Now we talk about another concept called homozygous and heterozygous. Please do not confuse homozygous and homologous. Logous means location, for lows, right? Zygous means relating to the zygote, right? And then another thing you need to notice now is that everything here is coded. So it's up to you whether you want to learn how to understand. Homo simply means same. Zygous means sort of like same cell or same unit. Same unit. But in this case, it means same allele. Right? Hetero means different. Zygous again means same unit, or in this case, for this topic, same allele. So if we're saying your eye color is homozygous, it's meaning that the alleles are the same. If we're saying it's heterozygous, we're saying your alleles are different. Okay, I'm just going to note that. Same alleles for homozygous. And here you have different alleles. Right? Okay, I hope you got that. So let's try and I'm going to give you an example for you to understand that concept better. So say for example, your eye color. Aibu, why am I writing like your eye color is described by, say, 2 small gray dots. I'm just going to use dots for now because I haven't explained how the letters worked. So it's expressed by 2 small gray dots. What I'm going to ask you to notice is these dots over here are both recessive. Okay? But another thing is that they are the same type. They are both recessive, meaning that they are homozygous. But what type of homozygous? Because they could be homozygous and both big, or homozygous and both small. So this is what you call an allele that is homozygous recessive, an allele combination, a gene that is homozygous recessive, meaning that they are both recessive alleles. So your gene, your eye color, is a homozygous recessive trait. So that's how you say it. My gene for eye color is a homozygous recessive trait, as I have 2 recessive alleles for gray eyes. Right? And then let's just give another example for somebody else. Somebody has a dominant blue allele and a recessive pink allele. So 1 is dominant, 1 is recessive, and they are different, meaning that these are indeed heterozygous. But what type of heterozygous are they? There's no type. If they're heterozygous, it means that they are different. There's no different of 2 different recessives and 2 different dominants. So they are just heterozygous. Right? And If they're heterozygous, that means one is big and one is small. That means it's heterozygous dominant, because one is going to be big, one is going to be small. Now let's move on to the letters, since now you understand what is going on there. I hope you understand. This is why I prefer live sessions, but live sessions will only occur on Wednesdays at around 6 p.m. and that's where you get the opportunity to ask every question possible that you have. So yes, we'll meet for live sessions then. Okay, so I'm just going to explain how the letters work. We're going to continue with our concepts and reach a certain limit, and we will continue in our next lesson. So I don't want to rush things. I want to make sure you guys understand, but the moment I get feedback from this video, then I'll see if I need to increase my pace, because it's a lot of content to cover and I want to make sure that I cover everything before you write. Okay, so now how the letters work. As I said, we're not going to be using dots and things. You're too grown for that. So remember, okay, let's not focus on your grandparents. Let's come to your parents and you, because we'll just make things longer. So your dad, as you can see, has a dominant orange, and we are not using small anymore, and a recessive blue. And again, now we know that dominant alleles are expressed with capital letters. So we can just come here and write the O. And then come here and write the blue. The blue will be small. That is obvious, right? Because it's recessive. And another rule that you need to know about. So I'm just quickly going to erase all that. Unless I can just squish it somewhere else in case you are still pondering over it. Where am I gonna put it? There it is. Hope you can still see. But okay, another rule is a certain trait, or rather, excuse me for that.
Please note that fumigation will resume. Please note that fumigation will resume. May all students please remove their bed covers from their beds. Please remove your bed covers from your bed. Thank you.
Excuse me for that. Right. So one thing you need to know is a certain allele will have a certain letter representing it. What I mean by that is, for orange eyes, there's a certain letter. There's orange O. You choose O, right? Whether it's orange recessive or orange dominant, it's going to be O. So if it's orange dominant, it's going to be big O. Orange recessive, small O. For blue, if you choose B, big B for dominant, small b for recessive. Hope you understood that. That is a very important rule, right? So whether it's a small letter or a big letter depends on if that allele is recessive or dominant. That's why I said allele and not trait, because if I said trait here, I would be talking about height, right? Or I'd be talking about eye color. So if I said eye color is represented by the letter B, how were you gonna now represent an orange eye color and a blue eye color under B? So that was just going to be complicated. So that's why I said a certain what? A certain allele is represented by a certain letter. That's why we have orange O, B, blue, whatever and stuff. Okay, so I hope you got that. I'm just also gonna crop that into some tight space somewhere in case you're still noting it down. Alrighty, okay, so let's come back here as we were naming our alleles using the letters and whatnot. Alrighty, so that means this is a O and a B. The proper way to write this is not using arrows and all these fidgety stuff that I'm using. It is to write it like this. So I'm even gonna increase the space for my box. So your father had a dominant orange and a recessive blue, meaning it's a dominant orange and a recessive blue. That's how you represent your father's eye color. Then masifika uma wakho nje. Umama la has a dominant green and a recessive green. A dominant green and a recessive green. When you have a dominant orange and a recessive green. A dominant orange and a recessive green. You can still see that you took this and that from your mother and this and that from your father. I'm just going to clear this so that things are a bit clearer. Right? So you can still see, oh, this dominant orange, I got it from my father. And then this recessive green, I got it from my mother. See? Now it makes things easier because now you're dealing with letters that represent what you're talking about. Let's come to your father's parents here. Your father's father has two recessive blues, meaning it's a B and a B. And then your father's mother has a dominant orange and a recessive gray. Right? That means, oh, damn it, this O that you took from your father is actually from your grandmother from your father's side. Now you see that traits are actually being passed down, because for your father to get this dominant allele for orange eyes and for his eyes to be orange, he had to take the dominant allele from his mother and pass it down to you. So you can also have what? Orange eyes. So that's how you need to understand this. You need to understand how traits are actually moving here, right? And you didn't take this. Maybe your brother took this small one. As you know, the arrangement of these things are very different. Maybe your brother took the small G there from your mother, and then he took for example, he took this over there from your father. Then we are talking about something else, guys. We're talking about types of dominance, and it's possible that now, because he took two recessive alleles, those alleles have to mix, and now you get gray plus blue, which I do not know what that is. And then your brother has a very unique eye color. So that's what happens now. We're going to talk about types of dominance later, right? So okay, yeah, man, that's how it happens. So for your dad to have this dominant orange, took it from the mom, and then you took this recessive blue from the dad over there, right? And then let's go to your mom's side, right? So your mom's side, her mother had dominant green, recessive white, which is dominant green and recessive white. Aibu, recessive white. And then your father, on the other hand, had a dominant white and a recessive green. And then when your mother decided to take the dominant green from the mother, which is this one over here, and then she took, this is even supposed to be a G. What the heck, bro? And then she took this recessive green also from the father. So she was just dominant, heterozygous, dominant, for green eyes. Because heterozygous, they're different, but there's a dominant something that causes green eyes. So that's how you interpret these things. So now you know how the letters work as well. Man, you sorted. So I just wanted you guys to understand that. And then if we move on to this side, now we can talk about all these concepts of inheritance and the types of dominance that we're going to touch on too. I do not want to confuse you. So the next time we meet, we are going to talk about all these types of dominance and everything. So right now, let's just move to these concepts just to highlight them and everything. So a gene is a segment of DNA in a chromosome that contains the code for a particular characteristic, right? There's this gene that I was talking about, a section of the chromosome, right? So over here you'll find that code for your eyes. When I need to, your eyes are here, you have the O and the G, and that's why your eyes now are what? Are orange, because of this. Okay, so that's what a gene is. It's a segment of DNA that contains a chromosome code for a particular characteristic. That definition as it is, you take it and you put it on your paper. Don't remove or add anything. You have to put the part where it's a segment, that is very important, of a chromosome contains the code for particular characteristics. Very important. You never know what the examiner wants to mark, so put everything, please. Then your allele are different forms of a gene which occur at the same locus on homologous chromosome. So if you remember, I did explain by drawing those two chromosomes of your moms and pops, right? Aibu. Okay, and I was like, you know what, I need to just copy this because they have the same size, shape, blah 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 blah. Aibu. There it is. So yes, they do have to have the same size and shape. So as you can see, this definition says different forms of a gene, meaning that your mother over here could have a gene for pink eyes, and then your father could have the gene for green eyes, right? But they occur on the same locus, meaning that they are on the same position, as you can see, of homologous chromosomes. Remember, homologous chromosomes have the same size, shape, and genetic composition, meaning that they carry the gene for the same characteristics at the same place, right? So that's basically what that was. I explained it at the beginning of the video. And then dominant allele T, tall plant, recessive allele T, short plant, right? So that's for height. When you're talking about height, manje, you have tall and short, right? So height, for height, you can only have two possible alleles, tall and short. So you don't need many letters like in eye color. So you can just choose one, and you can choose T. And you can see, say T represents tall, and then small t represents short. That's for height. It's a different kind of trait which we will discuss later on. It's called continuous or something like that. Yeah. So we'll deal with that later. And again, the genotype is the genetic composition which you do not see, but it determines the phenotype, which is the physical appearance of an organism based on its genotype, right? So now we have this concept, which is dominant allele. It's the allele that is expressed or shown in the phenotype when found in the heterozygous and homozygous condition. So if you have two big T's, two big oranges, or two big reds, that means this person has red eyes. If we find a big red and a small red, they have red eyes. If you find small red, they also have red eyes. But this is now homozygous recessive. This is what you call heterozygous, and this is what you call, this is homozygous dominant, and this is heterozygous dominant, because there's still a dominant allele. It's still a dominant allele that's not gonna mask the other one. Over here, nothing is masking each other. Right? Excuse me for that notification. So, recessive allele, it is an allele that is masked in the phenotype when found in a heterozygous condition. When they are different, when one is big and one is small, the recessive one, which is the small one, is masked. It's only masked in the heterozygous condition and only expressed in the homozygous condition. As I said, your father here, your father's father here, your father's father here has two recessive alleles, and they're expressed as blue eye color because it is the homozygous condition, meaning that they are both recessive. That's the only time where recessive alleles are expressed, if they are both recessive. And then we have this concept here called heterozygous, two different alleles for particular characteristics, meaning one is big and one is small. Homozygous, two identical alleles for particular characteristics. Both are big or both are small. Then we have what we call a monohybrid cross and a dihybrid cross. So we're going to talk about this as well. For a monohybrid cross, this is when we are looking at one characteristic in the cross. So a genetic cross is basically a diagram where we will cross alleles to see the possible arrangement of alleles. So for example, say when you were created, we're going to determine what possible combinations of eye color were there. And then we'll see, oh, so you ended up being this one. That's why I say it's very random. So there can be 4 combinations and you end up being one. And your sister end up being the other. So that's how different it can be. For example, we could be talking about flower color, shape of seeds, and etc. Dihybrid cross, we are crossing 2 different characteristics. We can be crossing flower color and the shape of seeds at the same time. Here we are doing one. So don't confuse yourself, we'll get there. Then we're not going to be talking about these today and this. So this is for the next lesson. So yeah, I'm going to send this activity for you guys to do, and I hope you understood and enjoyed today's lesson. Next time we will be dealing with the types. This is for the next lesson. Types of dominance, multiple alleles, crosses, and basically we'll just continue from where we stop. Bye everyone.